Welcome to Young Living Farms. My name is David Little. I'm agronomist of Global Farms. One of the things that we're going to do today is take a deep dive into seed to seal. What is seed to seal? What does it mean to us at Young Living? And why does it help us to ensure that Young Living essential oils are the best and most effective essential oils at supporting our natural wellness in the world? In order to do that, I want to take you first on an experience. We're going to go with Gary Young. And to do that, you got to come with me. Okay, so first we're going to walk. We're going to go into the jungle and find some plants. So come on, everybody walk with me. Okay, so we're walking. If we need to run, you're going to clap. This is running. Okay, this is walking, running. Everybody get ready and go with me into the jungle. Anytime I would go with Gary into the field, all of a sudden he would stop, and I would look around, and Gary would have his head in the plants, or he'd be feeling the plants, or he'd brushed off one of the leaves, and you'd find him just meditating, thinking about the properties, the aromatic properties that he would smell, how it would taste, and what that plant was like. And he would say, this is a very aromatic plant, and it has good properties for essential oils. And so we would take samples of that plant and send it back to our lab at the farm and test it. And then he studied the essential oils and the properties of the essential oils and how they influence and support those bodily systems and those health functions. And as he did that, he found that aromatic plants have the ability in those aromatics and in their essential oils to support the human body and its natural wellness. So as he would go through the jungle, come on, or through the field on the farm, everywhere he would go, he would reach out and he would rub his hand along the top of the plants. He'd say, oh, that one's a very aromatic plant. And he would have that desire to go back and test and see what properties it would have and how it might benefit our natural wellness. And as he did that, more and more essential oils started to come into production for Young Living. From the very beginning, Gary Young inspired naturally sustainable crop production. So as we come out to the farm and you see the naturally sustainable practices that we use in our forestry, at our farms in Ecuador, at our farm in France, Mona, Utah, at all of our farms around the world, you start to recognize that each farm is different. Each farm is growing different plants. The distillation pressure, time, temperature for each crop is a little bit unique. And as Gary studied all these different plants, he started to realize that naturally sustainable crop production practices enable the plant to reach its highest potential, to produce and develop its full genetic expression of essential oils. So here in this bowl, I have some clary sage. And the clary sage seed is very small. In this next one, I have some lavender seeds, and they're even smaller. And then finally, in this bowl, I have some goldenrod. And the goldenrod seed is actually, you can barely see it on the fluff. It's actually the little gold tip on the end of the fluff. Each seed is unique. It looks different. It's a different color, a different size, and has a different genetic expression of essential oils. What does that mean? That means that each seed is going to develop, as that plant grows, different levels of different constituents in its essential oils. The makeup will be different. That's why different flowers smell different. That's why peppermint smells different than lavender, is because it has different aromatics, different genetic expression of those essential oils. As Gary brought these seeds back and we start cultivating them at the farm, he found that the soil is very, very important. And one of the things that we would do, this is a peppermint plant. Every time we would get into the field, he would study and he would pull up the plants and he'd say, David, what do you notice? And he would have me smell the plant and taste the plant and look and study study the soil and smell the soil and even taste the soil and look at the roots and notice that these roots are very, very fine. And it's the fine little root hairs that have the capacity to draw in all of the nutrients into the plant through diffusion and mass flow. Right? So if we have one big, thick root, that may mean that the soil is compacted and that root's trying to push through compacted soil. So as we would study the different plants, he would ask me, what do I notice? And I'd have to be observant and understand. Now, how do those conditions influence the ability of that seed or that plant to develop and reach its highest potential? As we look deeper and dig deeper into the soil, he would ask me what I notice. Is there a lot of organic matter in the soil? As you smell the soil, is there a humic aroma? For the microbiology is giving off a carbon dioxide. Okay, so all of these, you can see a worm, you can see insects, but there's millions and even billions of microbiology, little bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, flatulates, amoebas, little things in the soil, living biology that work together to create a naturally sustainable system. So if that soil is healthy, it's got a high amount of microbiology and nutrients that are in the soil to be able to feed to the plant. And it's a symbiotic relationship. The plant's feeding those microbiology, those microbes, carbon. And in return, those microbiology are feeding the plant the nutrients that it needs to grow and reach its highest potential. The reason that we don't use any chemicals on our farm is because it has a detrimental effect on that microbiology. All of our farming practices are natural and sustainable to be able to bolster and build that microbiology. So we use a lot of cover crops between our rows to have living roots and living organisms in the soil, providing shade to the soil so that the microbiology and the insects can be protected from solar radiation, right? And so what that does, it creates an environment where all of the microbiology and the insects can work together to feed the plant, to support the plant, and make sure that that plant can reach its highest potential. Once that plant grows and it's time to harvest, we harvest the specific, every plant's different, and we harvest the specific part of the plant that carries those essentials. So in the case of peppermint, it's all of the biomass above ground. And so we'll come along with our harvester and we'll harvest that biomass just a couple inches above the ground, and that biomass then comes back to the distillery. And at the distillery, all of that biomass then has to cure. Okay, it has to lay out, and different plants are different. The peppermint plant is a fairly fleshy plant. And it lays out on the tarmac or in front of the distillery to dry. As it dries down, the sugar content elevates in the plant. And so we're monitoring in the plant that sugar content. A couple of things happen in monitoring that. Prior to harvest, we can determine exactly when that plant has all of its essentials up and ready to be harvested. Let's take, for example, I'm a tulip, right? And out in the sun, you can smell all my aromatics in full splendor. It's awesome. But then when the barometric pressure drops, it gets overcast and it starts to rain, that tulip closes up. And the aromatics and all of the essential enzymes, all of the essentials come back down into the core of the plant. And so not only do we have to harvest at the right growth stage, we have to harvest in the right climate, the right time of day. Very, very critical. What happens if I don't harvest at the right time of day or the right time of year or at the right growth stage? Would that mean that it's not peppermint essential oil? It would still be peppermint essential oil, but it may not be as effective at supporting my natural wellness. Why? Because all of the constituents that render a full-bodied essential oil would not be present. So harvesting at the right growth stage at exactly the right time and in the right climatic conditions ensures that all of those essentials are up and available in the plant to be harvested. As we come back and we dry down that plant a little bit prior to distillation, we watch the sugar content and we measure that, and at just the right time, we can then put that plant material into the kettle. Now I've prepared this distill a little bit ago already with plant material inside. And so as steam rises up from the bottom, I've got a small amount of water beneath my plant material. And as that heats up and steam rises through the plant material, the essential oils rise on the wings of the steam up through the gooseneck and through this device that's called a condenser. Okay, the condenser, we're pushing cold water up through the outer jacket. And the little bubbles that you see inside are the inner jacket. And so the steam comes out of the kettle and down through those little, the inner jacket, and is cooled or condensed. And at that point, the steam and the oil are converted back into a liquid state. Okay? And the oil is less dense than the water. So naturally, the oil rises to the top and the water stays on the bottom. And then we simply pull that oil off. We funnel that oil right off the top. And I wish you were here so that I could share a drop of this freshly distilled essential oil. Smells so good. And be able to share with you that experience. So we pull that oil off of the top of the water, and that's what gets tested to ensure that all of the essential oil properties, the right constituents at the right level are present, and then it goes into your bottle. So from the seed, ensuring that we have the right genetics to ensure that that plant has the potential to deliver all of the essential oils and the components that are needed in that essential oil, to how it's grown and produced and how we care for the soil, how we give back to Mother Earth with compost and organic fertilizers and mulch, cover crops, the timing of harvest, how it's harvested, the right plant parts, and then finally the distillation, that it's distilled at the right temperature, the right pressure, and for exactly the right amount of time to ensure that that essential oil is effective at supporting my natural wellness. In wrapping up, to help you amplify your passion about what you're doing, I want to continue on our experience. So let's go again as we march through the jungle. Okay, and we're marching, and we're slashing through the big trees with our machete to get through. And so we're marching, and we come to a large ravine where we need to get across. And as we get there, we notice that down the way, there is a bridge. And so we march down to the bridge. Let's go, everybody run. We got to get down to the bridge. Come on, we're running. And we arrive at the bridge, and there's the gatekeeper at the bridge. And he's very forbidding. And he says, oh, you can't cross my bridge unless you pay the toll. You've got to pay $5 to cross my bridge. Well, I don't know. And we look at the bridge, and it is like this prehistoric piece of art, right? There's mold and moss growing on all the ropes, and half the ropes are missing. Some of the boards down the middle are broken. I'm not sure I want to risk my life on this bridge. So again, we look down the ravine and we look up the ravine. There's another bridge. So we go, come on, let's run down to the other bridge. And we get down to the other bridge, and there's, again, the gatekeeper at the bridge. And the gatekeeper says, oh, you can't cross my bridge unless you pay the toll. It's $50 to cross my bridge. Oh, man, that's a lot just to cross the bridge. But as we look at the bridge, it is got steel cables and every support that's needed to ensure our safe arrival at the other side. This bridge is sound and complete. Definitely, it's worth the cost because I know that I'm going to arrive alive on the other side. So we pay the fare and we head across the bridge. So away we go across the bridge. Now, why I've shared this story with you about the bridge and in the jungle is I want to tie it back to our seed to seal process. The way that we select our seeds and ensure the proper genetics of our seeds, how we grow our crops and ensure that we have a naturally sustainable cultivation practice in caring for the soil and giving back to Mother Earth so that that soil can enable the plant to reach its highest potential, to develop all of the constituents and deliver its full genetic expression of essential oils. And then finally, the distillation, that it's distilled with the crop harvested at just the right time. And it's distilled at the right temperature, the right pressure, and for the right amount of time. All of those standard practices for Young Living are absolutely important. Why? So that that final essential oil has all of the constituents that it needs, like the bridge, to fully support our natural wellness. In the same way that we wouldn't want to go across the bridge that's missing half of its supports, we wouldn't want to utilize natural wellness products that don't have all of the constituents needed to support our natural wellness. As it is, then, Young Living Essential Oils rests on the seed to seal commitment to ensure that the right genetics are selected, the crop production practices that we use, and the distillation methods and equipment that we use to distill our essential oils are absolutely right so that that essential oil can be complete. It can carry all of the constituent supports that it needs to fully support our natural wellness. Very cool. So as you look forward and to a new year, and to be able to share Young Living Essential Oils, I just have one last experience to share with you. On one occasion, as I was coming out of the field with Gary Young, I had been with Young Living for about 3 months. And I asked Gary, I says, Gary, this is just amazing what you've done to build such an empire as Young Living, how big Young Living is and how successful it is. And he just shook his head. He said, it's not about the masses. It's about one. Everything that we do is about one individual, one person at a time that may need the support of essential oils to have a better lifestyle, to be able to reduce stress, to be able to support our natural wellness. And then that one individual can reach out and share with one other individual. And so it goes until Young Living Essential Oils are in the homes of every person on earth. Our vision, you see, is that we have a healthy home for each of us and a healthy world for all of us. Thank you.